Fathers of Reddit, what is the worst boyfriend your daughters have brought home? Who made you say, that guy? Really, who did you just not like and why? My beautiful, brilliant, scholarship-winning daughter fell in love with a homeless H addict in Portland, or, about 10 years her senior year. Not too much later, my daughter was also a homeless drug addict in Portland and he was in jail. We're now 5 months into rehab's sobriety but she still pines for this piece of crap. WTF did I do wrong? I don't know if this fits the question because she never brought him to my home. My daughter brought home a gay guy. I just gave him a knowing, non-judgmental nod. I knew it would work itself out, and it did. I still occasionally tease her about it for not realizing. My daughter, age 16 at the time, I think, once brought home a trailer park hero. Blank, glassy eyes, a dead fish handshake, and a mouth that just hung open all the time, aka catching flies. He never wanted to go anywhere or do anything, just wanted her to come to his trailer house, obviously to fool around. I attempted to be polite and speak to the young man, but he could only vaguely nod and answer in monosyllables, and excused himself to leave quickly. The moment he did, I simply looked at her and asked, really? Fortunately, it only lasted another couple of days after that. That man wasn't their hero, just their ambassador. My daughter had dated a string of some real good kids who had good heads on their shoulders, good prospects for success in life, but dumped each one as just not what she was looking for. She then went through what her two older brothers like to call the bum of the month club. Each one she brought home to meet me even worse than the last. I was at the point of telling her that she needed to reassess her standards upwards a tad before she really found a true loser who would end up hurting her. She found him. It was bad. She came around. In the end it was his butt getting hurt. However, he thought he was a tough guy and tried to physically harm my daughter after she tried to tell him it was over, which was a huge mistake on his part. This kid was 6 feet 1 inches and 185, wore wiffle beaters, backwards hat and droopy drawers and thought he was a tough guy. White suburban punk. You've seen them. My daughter was a 4-sport athlete her entire school career and had her college education covered by an athletic scholarship. When he showed up at a party she was at even with the restraining order against him and grabbed her arm and wouldn't let go. She hit him so hard flush on the side of the jaw that it tore his left earlobe off of his head, chipped 3 teeth while putting a hole through his cheek in the process, and knocked him clean out with one punch. It was a good thing there were witnesses as she was arrested for aggravated assault when they had to call the squad to take the kid to the ER to patch his butt back together. The charges were dropped. Soon after I got home early that Sunday morning, her brother pulled into the drive after picking my daughter up at the local PD. Her white blouse was brown with the splotchy stains of dried blood. The first thing she said to me was, "Don't worry, Dad, none of it's mine. My little girl, mercenary-hearted little blue-eyed blonde. By all the gods, you've not raised a daughter so much as a shield maiden." I have to say the 15-year-old boy that climbed in my 15-year-old daughter's window the past Saturday night is not high on my list of favorites. I'm the daughter who brought home the losers. When I was 16 I met this cute guy in school and we'd only hung out a few times. We liked each other but didn't really know each other that well. But I brought him home to meet my parents anyway and it immediately went downhill. My parents tried to make small talk with him and one of the first things he told them was that he was bipolar and schizophrenic, had severe ADHD, and once stabbed a pencil through his hand on a dare, but it didn't hurt haha, and kept referring to his mom as that B, and just a bunch of other bizarre stuff you don't tell the parents of the girl you like. He had never told me any of that stuff before nor did he act strange either so I was blindsided. My dad, who has never had much of a filter, said okay pal this isn't happening. You can go on ahead or leave the same way you came in. I was mortified but secretly relieved my dad asked him to leave. The only other interaction I had with that kid was 4 or 5 months later when he started dating some other girl and we were sitting in class one day and he leaned over and asked me, can a girl get pregnant from giving a BJ? Facepalm. In high school I had a boyfriend who everyone in my family, mom, dad, brothers, used to make jokes about because he was so obviously gay. I ignored it and dated him for about a year. He's a woman now. My sister dated a guy for a few years in high school, but then one day he told her he was gay, and she was like oh hey, me too. Then they formed a band and they've been best friends ever since. I'm Hispanic and used to have a temper as a teen. Met a girl who seemed to like me but always tried encouraging me to do stupid crap. Let's race those guys. Woman, no. I love this car. I ain't risking it. For some reason she wanted me to meet her cop dad. So I did. We hit it off over a mutual love of motorcycles and Rush music. And he invited me to a BBQ. The girl hated that her dad loved me. Apparently she wanted him to hate me. She dumped me the next day. I really wanted that BBQ. He knew. He torpedoed the whole thing by getting along with you. Clever bastard. I was the black guy most of the white girls in my high school dated. I was on the debate team and an athlete. Also did track. All the fathers were suspicious of me because I didn't like basketball. Who needs basketball when you got the booty call? Daughter here. My dad is a drug cop and I brought a boy home. My dad pulled me aside and said, "You're too old for me to tell you what to do." But I interrogated that boy a few months ago and all he did was play the air guitar the whole time. I continued to date him for a few months, then it ended. He rocked that air guitar though. One kid she brought home ended up being a stalker, then ended up sneaking into our home at 4 AM after they had broke up. He and I had a short, severely unpleasant little chat. Threats of severe injury may have been discussed. He never showed his face again. Daughter and I were both happy with the outcome. My sister's boyfriends have been consistently pretty stand-up guys post high school, but she exclusively dated women for about 10 years and brought home some real winners. Angie, the reformed M cook with a rap sheet a mile long, asked me to buy her Sudafed when she had a cold, because she couldn't. Real grade A girlfriend material. First person I'd call if I was in fear of getting my boss beat by a gang of truckers though. She was the largest and scariest man to ever be born with a uterus. Martha, the former cult member. Her parents' fault. Not hers, she was like 5 when they joined but she was a little loopy from it. And reformed CKed. My sister married her during one of the brief periods when gay marriage was legal in CA and we all flew out to attend. Great wedding and reception. Divorced a year later. You know that joke about a guy being so bad in bed he turns women gay? Martha was so bad at being a spouse she sent my sister running back to the ranks of the hetero-leaning bisexuals. Her current boyfriend is super nice, easy to get along with, and a really good dad. He also used to work at a brewery and is very beer knowledgeable, which is awesome. Bonus. I will probably never have to come over to my sister's house armed to tell him to leave, since it's exceedingly unlikely he'll go on a crack binge and start pounding on her door at 2 AM. I appreciate that about him. It's exceedingly unlikely he'll go on a crack binge and start pounding on her door at 2 AM. It's the little things. I brought home the moron. He was a pothead who chain smoked. Whenever my dad or mom would check up on us, as parents do, he would yell at them to give us our privacy. He started talking about having kids with me and told my mom that he had been poking holes in rubbers. She went redneck on him right then and there. To this day, my family calls any stupid behavior pulling a insert X's name here. He would yell at them to give us our privacy. Ha, that would have gotten your door kicked in at my house. I had to be. I was skinny, fragile, with blue hair, drug problems and a huge beef with all families. So glad I'm not that person anymore. I brought him home. He was a manipulative, elitist sociopath and I was the only one who didn't see it. My entire family despised him because he treated me so badly. When he dumped me, the phrase he so eloquently used was, "I'm like a Led Zeppelin song. I just need to ramble on." All my mother said to me was, "He just did the best thing you could have ever done for you." She was right. I'm like a Led Zeppelin song. I just need to ramble on. Lolwood. I'm not a father, but I have a good story about this. My sister dated a guy through most of high school. He was nice enough, headed to the military, and eventually my sister decided to split with after a year or 2 in college. He was obsessed with my sister and they had a big fight, but she stuck to her guns and said they were done. In the middle of the night, he drove drunk over to our house, pulled his truck up next to the garage, climbed up his truck onto the roof of the garage, pulling off the gutter in the process, carefully climbed his way to my sister's window and knocked. It terrified her. She ran over to my mother's room, My dad was working at the hospital overnight, and my mom answered the window. He was in serious trouble. My mom gently told him to get down from the roof, took his keys and made his friend come drive him home. I've never seen my dad that angry, but he never got to say anything to the guy, because my dad wasn't a confrontational person. If he were there though when the guy climbed the roof and scared my sister, I'm fairly sure he would have murdered him. Answer the window. I was that girl who brought the bad boyfriend home. He was a German exchange student and I was at an age where all that mattered was the sexy accent. My stepdad, who worked for the government, did a background check on him because he felt like something was off. I feel like he did background checks on all my boyfriends, but that's a different story. We find out his student visa expired last year and he's in the country illegally. He reports him to his superior. My stepdad gets my boyfriend deported. End of relationship. I feel like he did background checks on all my boyfriends, but that's a different story. Can confirm. My girlfriend's stepfather is a retired cop. He runs background checks on pretty much everyone. His wife prior to dating her, all of my GF sexes, and me, I imagine, her sister's SOS. Not a dad, but another girl here who was that girl who brought the bad guy home. I started dating this guy who was fresh out of juvie for getting plastered and driving a truck into our house. It was clear that he was a rampant dickwad, but for whatever reason I was smitten. My parents knew something was off right away. I hadn't told them the juvie part. They said they just felt something was wrong and said I needed to forward that relationship, but I didn't. The whole relationship was interesting to say the least. He totaled my car, tried to kidnap me, left me alone at his house to go cheat on me among many other things. We broke up after 2 months, and last I heard he was in prison for stealing a truck and shotgun, and is now married to some random chick he met through some prison love finder service. TLDR. Listen to your parents, kids. I was the boyfriend. Before I met her parents they saw one of our AIM chats and completely misinterpreted some things, which was pretty awkward. Her mother was nice but I don't think I had a chance at being accepted by her dad regardless. I was the boyfriend. I started out being loved by both of the parents. I was well dressed and respectful of them. Me and her father both have RC helicopters and airplanes so we bonded over that. I would regularly spend the night at their house, in the basement, when we were on break from school so I wouldn't have to drive home late at night. Then one morning we woke up and no one was home. We were planning on going to Chicago for the day. We had sex and then sat in the living room to eat breakfast. I had the used rubbers in a bag on the floor to take with us and throw away at the train station, but we forgot them there. Halfway through the trip she got a call from her mother saying she found the condoms. Her father never knew. Thank God, but I never spent the night again. My mother found my condoms and freaked out. I quietly said okay, I won't use them next time. She was suddenly not bothered at all about my possession of condoms. I'm a daughter who brought home an idiot. He was terrified of my parents because he was an atheist and my parents are Christian. Before he even met them, he'd get drunk and ramble about giving them the what for if they tried to convert him. Yes, I pick winners. My dad is a gentle bear of a man and my mum is a little lady. They're an older couple and the nicest people I've ever met. He projectile vomited in the restaurant bathroom before he sat down to eat with everyone for their first meeting. When I moved in with him, he insisted on getting a buzz on before they would visit. When I got really sick, I asked him to take me to the clinic. He declined in favor of band practice. My dad ended up driving down to make sure I was okay and even cook me breakfast. When he dumped me, because yes, I was too stupid to do it myself, I called my dad crying my head off. He listened to me rant for a few minutes and then said quietly, "At least you didn't get pregnant. I will always be grateful for that." At least you didn't get pregnant. I will always be grateful for that. Dad speak for I'm glad I won't have to deal with that idiot till I die. Not a father but I brought home one my entire family hated, specifically my father. He was a long-haired, skateboarding hippie with a terrible mustache, typical 17-year-old teen. My father hated everything about him. He was too polite for how he looked. His hair was too long. His pants had holes in them. The works. But mustache hippie didn't give up easily and slowly won them over one by one. My brother was easy, sisters not so much, and my father eventually came to love him. Now he works for their family business and is set to take it over with my brother when they retire. I guess the point of this ramble is to not judge your daughter's boyfriends too harshly too fast. Sometimes teenagers just look dumb as heck. They'll grow out of it. You're not fooling anyone. Skateboarding hippie. I was the boyfriend. I apparently gave her parents the serial killer vibe. Their words: I'm just shy, anxious, and introverted. Anyone else get a solid ego boost from reading these threads? It's always nice to be reminded that there's someone worse out there. He was a black gangster style teen who couldn't stop staring at my daughter's butt, would grab at it when she got off the couch, in front of our whole family, and would regularly adjust his package through his basketball shorts as he walked behind my daughter. I don't think I'd be able to sit through that. My stepdad rarely liked any of my boyfriends. He tells me now it's because he was never prepared for me to grow up and him have to deal with it. But one guy definitely takes the cake. He was getting kicked out of his house he was living in. We'd been hanging out, not even dating, for a week, and I really ended up not being that interested because he was terrible and obsessive. Well, he goes up to my stepdad while I'm upstairs and tells him he should really let him live there because he was nowhere else to go. My stepdad laughs and tells him no way. The guy runs out of our house, slams our front door and starts walking down the road. My stepdad for sure chased him down and informed him if he ever thought to slam his door in his house ever again he'd be a dead man walking. Thankfully that got rid of Mr. I'm a drifter. Come to think of it, I can't think of a single boyfriend he's liked off the bat. Haha, fairly impressive balls on that guy. Still a bag though, lol. I've brought home that guy before. He was a 35-year-old unemployed pothead hippie that didn't shower or wash his clothes so much. When I asked my mom what she thought about him, she just shook her head and told me he smelled bad. Daughter here. My dad is a retired US Army major and I once brought home a guy who closely resembled a gorilla. Don't ask me. I was 16 and I was in love. My father took this poor primate into his office, interrogated him for about an hour before our date. We say goodbye and as we're leaving out the front door to finally go, my dad hands my BF a banana and tells him to eat it if he gets cranky on our date. BF shrugs and doesn't get it. My dad chuckles and I give Poppy Ole death stare. My father continued to hand this kid a banana every time we went out together. The kid never got the joke and I never told him. Eventually, I just got too embarrassed to even bring the kid around anymore. My dad still brings it up, and that kid still looks like he got the lead role in Tarzan, the musical. Depending on the skin color of your boyfriend, your dad may or may not be super racist. My wife apparently dated a lot of dumbasses before we started dating. She could tell they liked me as I was the only one her father didn't offer to show his gelding knife to. Most of the idiots didn't even get it. My sister brought the local bad boy home when she was about 16. In our house, he told me and my mother to frick right off for no particular reason. Sat on the couch and light up a cigarette. My sister thought it was funny and my mother told him he had to leave immediately. My sister screamed at my mother that this is my house too and he can stay. I told my sister that either he leaves or I make him leave. He jumps up and gets right in my face saying make me. Mother. My sister says fine. We'll leave. Losers. Yep, she was awesome when she was a teenager. Fast forward a few months and she dumped him because he was a total idiot. Fast forward a few months later and he was stalking her wherever she went. Fast forward a couple years and he followed her to Greece. We live in Canada. Showing up at the apartment she was renting with friends. He had a nice chat with some Greek police and exited her life forever. I was never the loser boyfriend. At least I don't think I was considered that. I typically got along well with any GF father I met. But I met a shithead father. I was in college on my way to being a mechanical engineer. It was Christmas Eve, and I showed up with a bottle of wine for her parents and gifts for her two younger brothers. My GF already had her gift. That night, her stepfather asked me to help him move a present from the garage. Once we were alone, he backed me into a wall and gave me the "if you hit her, I'll kill you" speech. Years later, it became apparent that the only one that hits women regularly in the family was him hitting her mom. I'm glad she's not too fond of them anymore, and we rarely see her side of the family. My 22-year-old best friend is dating a homeless 17-year-old who lives at the mission. The only reason he is homeless is because he got kicked out of his parents' home for doing C in front of his 6-year-old niece. He is rude, deceitful, manipulative, and insults me at every chance he can get. Refers to me as the fat one. Can't freaking stand that guy. Have no idea why she is with him. Oh, and my friend won't tell me where she met this piece of work. She's doing coke. I was the boyfriend. Her parents thought I was a drug dealing, boozing, do nothing loser, their words, and that I only wanted to get into her pants. I mean, sure, I like to party, but I wasn't a drug dealer and we were still in high school, which I ended up graduating from. We dated for almost 3 years, and I never changed their opinion of me. I guess part of it was that they figured I was trying to hide something because I was so friendly. I wasn't hiding anything. I just wanted to be nice to my girlfriend's parents. With that said, we did argue constantly during the last 8 months or so. High school relationships, am I right? Rough man, rough. Not a father, but the older sibling that was away in college when my parents met my jailbait sister's 18-year-old boyfriend. He had been sneaking in and out through her window for months before they even knew about him. They found out sis had been physical with him and my dad threatened to have him put on a sex offender registry if he ever came near her again. They no longer date. I was the daughter. I had a few BFs that I dated before I met the one I am still dating today, and it wasn't an easy road. My parents were very strict on me dating a Polish guy. Well, all the Polish guys that lived around me had their heads up their butt, and so I started dating my half Mexican half Spanish BF. They hated him, yelled at me in front of him that they want a Polish guy, etc. Eventually, after seeing him a few times a week, they got used to him. Both hardly speak English, so obviously they can talk to him, but they just stopped complaining about him. Nowadays my dad uses him as his personal helper of house projects and construction work, which my BF doesn't complain about because hey, at least he's civil to him. My mother tries to feed him every time she sees him because he is really skinny, but she's also civil. We have been dating for 5 years now, and I guess the best advice I could give to anyone in my situation is to just give it time. Eventually, if the parents see that race is the only issue but he's friendly and committed to his aspirations, they stop looking at his race. That feel when racist family. Not a father, but I'm the daughter. I had one boyfriend a few years ago that I recently found out my dad hated. Apparently it was because he was too comfortable around my dad, and he didn't like it. My dad is a really quiet guy, not very intimidating in my opinion, but I guess he likes feeling that way. Ex's grandmother told her in front of me to watch out because I might get the ex preggo and run off with the kids to India. I laughed and replied that my grandma warned me, watch out, the little blonde white girl will just divorce you and take all your money. Well, my sister's current prospect has made conversations of how crappy her purse was. What kind of dude notices that crap? Insisted on knowing her shampoo brand on the first date. Is closer to our mother's age than hers. Lives in a tiny butt apartment but still thinks we're some poor slobs. My bedroom is the size of his house, and it isn't covered in pizza grease, and a bunch of other stuff I won't even mention. The last one was a drug smuggler. Before him was the man-child who just played old NES emulators and COD all day night. Before him was the 7 feet 3 inches giant who gave her a puppy on their third date. Pretty good guy otherwise, just that was kinda weird. I am that guy. My wife's parents don't like me at all, but to be fair, I don't want my wife or son spending any time around a crazy bus nut job who tried to rape my sister-in-law, forced my wife's mother to quit her job to stay home and raise 4 kids, while not having a stable job himself, and whom my wife has nightmares about regularly. Just call me old-fashioned, I guess. Any boy that looks like he is only dating my daughter to have sex with her, and worse, that looks like he'd have sex with anybody that is not my daughter as well. Basically, if he looks like me or my friends when we were younger, it's a bad sign. Nerdy, reserved, polite, respectful, great, but boys like that evidently don't get too many chicks, so I'll probably never see one of them. I was cheated on by 2 different nerdy, reserved, polite, and outwardly respectful guys in high school. Douchebaggery knows no limits. My sister has brought home all kind of whackers over the course of years. It must be exceptionally hard for my father to be tolerant, but poor guy never spoke. Okay, he did occasionally make fun of them, and this poor dude was bowled all over and he called him chemo, which is very cruel. But anyways, my sister is no longer 16. So bringing home douchebags is no longer okay. She is in her 30s and she has been dating for so long this guy who I liked at first, but he turned out to be manipulating and abusive. He'll literally get angry at her in front of the whole family, and you'll witness the following scenario. No. Let me see. Let me see. He violently grabs her phone to check out who texted her. He kept telling the whole family how much he loves her and how bad she treated him, and I was on his side because my sister can be a total C. But he has crossed the line a long time ago. And I am worried that if things ever get serious he'll become abusive in more ways than one. And my sister is 31. She really is in marriage age now. And they've been fighting all the time when there really is no reason to fight. So I can't imagine what would happen if they actually had a reason to fight. We are no longer in good terms. I was on his side. I was willing to forgive a lot. But he has really done lots of stupid crap, and once he trashed her publicly on Facebook. It was really my duty as a brother to tell him to go frick himself. I know it's not my place. I know my sister chose him. I know I don't know the whole story, but at some point a brother needs to step in. We are no longer in good terms. He does not get along with my mother anymore, and my sister did not bring him home for several months. Now he started coming again. Notably, one time he told my mother, "Mrs. Rubberdong, I want you to know that I love your daughter, but she is a S and she has fricked everyone." How the frick is a person supposed to respond to this? This whole situation sounds like it sucks, but it's tough for me to stop chuckling over Mrs. Rubberdong. The crazy mental image I get when reading it in my head and trying to picture the person with this name. I've been on the internet too long. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.